very sad that Devin Booker's hurt. That just sucks.
I
So
know,
yeah.
because it's one of those things that we're going over studs and duds for everybody that's just tuning in, whether you're listening or watching. Devin Booker had 31 points in the first half. Gary, he was unconscious. He had 7 3-pointers in the first half. He was the second player in the last 25 playoffs to have 15 points in a quarter in less than 6 minutes. But he had to leave in the third quarter because of a hammy.
Yeah, this is a finals MVP type talent. And I tried to say during the regular season, I thought that he got off to a little late of a start to be in the MVP conversation or win the MVP, I should say.
Mm.
But he is on that level. That's just as simple as I can put it. And when you can put up 30 points against any NBA team in the playoffs, it doesn't matter if it's the Pelicans or the Hawks, I don't care who it is. The dude can score just about as well as anybody else in this game. He can win a scoring title if he chooses to, but the ball just happens to be in Chris Paul's hand a lot. And that's fair because he's a future Hall of Famer. So now the team that said everyone told me that was too good for Devin Booker to win the MVP. Now we get to see what they're like without Devin Booker on the court. And obviously, without Booker, they weren't enough to beat the Pelicans. Unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think something here too. Devin Booker's been a stud, but does that turn the Suns into a dud? We don't know how long this Devin Booker's gonna be out. I hope he's able to come right back because it's a bummer to see Devin Booker, Luka Doncic. You have people like Zion that's out. Like the Pelicans just beat the Suns, kept up with them even while Booker was going off, and they don't have Zion at all. We haven't seen Zion at all. I don't think he's going to come back in the playoffs. We'll see what happens here. They could maybe find this little spark, and then Zion all of a sudden is doing 360 windmill dunks in the playoffs. But will the Suns become duds here?
No, I don't think so. The Suns are a great team, even without Booker. And some of what people were saying about the team being too good for him to win MVP is true. Um, Chris Paul is a great player still, even in advanced age. Deandre Ayton, another really good player. He can dominate the post and he can defend big men's, especially us big men, especially in space. He can go out to the 3-point line, switch on to guards. He's super athletic, and they have JaVale McGee as his backup. So they don't really have to worry about foul trouble there. So realistically, the Suns are going to have to fight and claw. I think the series without Booker is going to be very close. Unfortunately, it's not the way I would like it to be. But when you lose your best player, I mean, how many teams can lose their best player and just cruise to a victory in the playoffs? It's not many. So it's sad.
So on the other side of the ball here, we got the Pels and Brandon Ingram, just another old Laker that's absolutely going off. And he looks incredible. He had a great game
Yep.
last night, 37, 11, and 9. He's an absolute stud here, and I think this is depending on how long Devin Booker's going to be out. You got people like Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. I think you're finally able to see him really thrive. Obviously, he did a great job being a sidekick to Damian Lillard for a long time, and he just continues to make the playoffs and make big plays. But Brandon Ingram, I think he might be the spark that could, who knows, maybe have an 8-1 upset. I don't see it happening, but they're definitely going to keep it close.
Yeah, they forget that some of these teams that we call garbage or average, they have great players on the team. Brandon Ingram is one of those players. CJ McCollum's another guy. These guys were making 25, $30 million a year to play basketball. We have to remember that. They're good players. Like CJ McCollum was supposedly supposed to be the wingman to Damian Lillard as the NBA Finals, the Portland Trailblazers. It's like these guys, when they're being dealt, they end up getting traded to teams that we consider average, but in a playoff series, you're one or two injuries away from being ran out the building by CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and the Pelicans with Zion sitting on the sidelines. So, yeah, they're offensively, they're good enough to put pressure on Phoenix without Booker because Booker, for the most part, is where their offense comes from. But this team shoots the ball very well as an entire unit. And I expect that to get them over the top. I don't think Booker is going to be totally necessary in this series, but had this happen in any other series, maybe they'd be in trouble.
Yeah, it's time for Deandre Ayton to become a stud here too, because I think that matchup between him and Valanciunas is going to be huge. Who's going to win the rebounding matchup there? How are you going to be able to clean up the boards? How are you able to get those second chance shots? Because I don't think they're going to be able to spread out the Pels as much as you normally could with Devin Booker on the floor. But I want to switch gears. Talk about a guy that used to be a Santa Cruz Warrior. My guy,
Okay.
Jordan Poole. Absolute pool party. This guy's looked nice. And I know I've chatted about it for years, getting to watch him in person when I was working for the Santa Cruz Warriors.
Yeah.
Man, his confidence was way down when he got pulled up way too fast because there was injuries with the top club, with Golden State. And I
Yeah.
think that was the best thing that could ever happen to him. You have a bunch of injuries, throw these guys into NBA games and find out what they're a part of. And then he was bumped down to Santa Cruz, and then he just started balling out. His confidence got up again, and then now you basically got a new death lineup. I don't know what they're going to end up calling this trio, but in game 2, Clay, Poole, and Curry combined for 84 points. And Jordan Poole just looks like a man on an absolute mission.
Yeah, see, I'm a basketball fan. I'm not just a Phoenix Suns fan. And if you're a real fan of basketball, you're going to have games of teams that you don't like on to figure out what are we dealing with, especially around playoff time. And if I remember correctly, I've seen multiple interviews from Klay Thompson where he mentioned Jordan Poole maybe 3 years ago, and 2-3 years ago when they're sitting there talking about how well he's doing in shooting drills. And when you have guys in Golden State talking about how well any teammate of theirs who's not taking the spotlight, because Poole didn't have that, when you have someone like Klay Thompson mentioning this guy's beating me in 3 of 5 shooting drills, this guy is out shooting me in practice, at some point those reps are going to play, they're going to pay off in the game. And that's what we're seeing. Golden State just has an environment where they're talking up and encouraging players below their stars, and they make the most of it. And Jordan Poole, many people didn't know him in college, and neither did I really. When you are enabled by Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and people are talking about you in those ways, you have to believe at some point in yourself. And now we have a guy who is a potential superstar. This guy could actually be, and I don't want to say anything too early and or whatever, and people think I'll jinx the guy. He can put the ball on the floor, he can play make, he can pass, but his shooting ability and his touch off the dribble is next level. And when you have a guy, the best shooter in NBA history, playing point guard, and you have maybe the second or third best shooter of all time in Klay Thompson on the wing, and then you add Jordan Poole to that who can shoot the ball, I don't know what you want to call that lineup, but if guys are shooting the ball the way that we saw in game 1 and 2, well, Devin Booker, all those guys are going to have to be healthy to stop this team. And that's why I had Golden State and Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals. It's either them or Memphis. And I can't really see any of the teams in the East beating them, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And then right now, too, you got to remember Steph Curry's coming off the bench. You have someone like Jordan Poole that's able to get it done, that you have one of the greatest players in the history of the National Basketball Association that's like, all right, that's fine. Jordan Poole, you go take it over. I'll just jump in. I'm not going to overextend myself. And that's going to help give the Warriors longevity and continue to be studs, because they're making the Nuggets look silly. And something that you just wrote about too, I think another stud that's never putting up massive stats, but Draymond Green. He's shutting down Jokic. Jokic is still getting that 25, 26 points, but he's not able to be as effective as he wants to be.
Yeah, and as you read, like I mentioned, he's taken away his airspace. Get rid of his airspace. The way the NBA played him, and I understand it's the regular season. Guys aren't going to play playoff basketball all year. That's pretty unrealistic. But for the most part, Jokic would catch the ball at the top of the key, put the ball over his head, and he did this very well at an all-time level. He would read the passing lanes. If he didn't like what it was available, he could score the ball, shoot over the top, perhaps put the ball on the floor, make 1 or 2 moves, and shoot over the top of you. That's his mentality. But Draymond Green got there and said, what do I have that is superior to Jokic? It's not size, it's athleticism. Mm-hmm. And he used his mind and his athleticism to take away all of his airspace and makes all of those passing lanes contested. You don't need your secondary players and secondary defenders trying to figure out where he's throwing the ball, you can stop where he's going to try to pass the ball and make it more difficult to make these entry passes. And once he did that, I believe he was 8 for 28 with Draymond on him so far in this series. That's dominant in the NBA at this point. Guys aren't, you're not going to go 0 for 28, but when you can figure out a way to contain Jokic, the Nuggets just have no chance. So that's why when I was asked to predict these series, I saw Draymond Green and I had pretty good faith that he was going to be able to find a way to make Jokic adjust to him. And that's what happened. And now it's going to be a short series, most likely.
Dude, Draymond Green is like that annoying little brother. Dude,
Yeah.
he is one of those where it's just like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Mhm.
And he's getting inside of Jokic's head. Like, Jokic is clearly pissed off. And that's taken away from his game. So, past the stats and physicality, Draymond Green is like him and Patrick Beverley. Those two guys, you absolutely hate those dudes if they're on the other team. But if they're on your squad, you're like, I love it. Because psychologically is another part of the game and in the playoffs that I think a lot of young guys are not used to, or guys that don't have as much playoff experience as someone like Draymond Green. And if you have your top dog on the Nuggets that's struggling emotionally, it's going to definitely make sure it's working its way through that starting lineup, the entire team, and that's going to affect everybody.
Yeah, we're so caught up in saying, well, this guy averages 25, he averages 30, and that guy averages 20. Let's just put them all on the same team and it's going to work. Sometimes the guys that are scoring 6 or 7 points where they're taking the other team's best player out of his game plan, that's all you need. The Dallas Mavericks in 2011, they didn't beat LeBron James and the Miami Heat by trying to outscore the Miami Heat. They said, what can we possibly do to get LeBron James to do the opposite of his game plan? How can we make him adjust to us? They went to his own defense. They didn't try to outscore him, because if the Golden State Warriors looked at it and said, well, we're going to give up 40 to Jokic and we've got to figure out what we're going to do after that. If that was their mentality, that's you allowing the other team's best player to do what he wants to do. And more than likely, when the best player, arguably in the series, is playing his best basketball, you are going to have a tight series. So the Golden State Warriors are using their most important asset that they could possibly use in this series, which is Draymond Green, taking the other team's best player, making him do stuff he doesn't want to do. And when Jokic is doing that, you see the results. So it's a series win for the Warriors as far as I'm concerned.
Amen to that. And then I'm trying to cash out on my bet for Warriors to win in 4. I threw that out there before the series even started. So FanDuel, thank you for the free money. A couple other studs before we get into duds. Jimmy Buckets has been absolutely incredible. He had 45 points last night, 4 for 7 from 3. He joined some elite company. It's Jimmy Buckets, LeBron, and Dwayne Wade, who've had 45, 5, and 5 in a playoff game. The Heat are 8-1 in their last 9 games. Jalen Brunson looks nice. Kyrie Irving's going to continue to do his thing. Anthony Edwards is another fun guy to watch. But before we head on out here, I want to talk about a few duds. And everybody that's listening, just tuning in, we got Gary Sheffield Jr. from Outkick.com. Always covers some great stuff in the NBA. He's the guy to go to for everything NBA during the playoffs. Duds. We'll start with the injuries. A dud is Doncic's calf and Booker's hamstring.
I'm going to go. I mean, the Booker hamstring is just horrible. The Pelicans had no chance in this series for obvious reasons. They're obviously outnumbered, outmanned. But anytime a team's best player goes down, it's just it's so tragic for the game of basketball, not just Suns fans, because I'm from Phoenix, and to see that, it essentially just derails everything that happened in the regular season. And this is why I've always tried to tell people that even if you're a fan of the other team, for any unit to go win roughly 65 games, completely dominate the regular season, and you show up to the first round and have a hamstring injury derail your playoff run in game 2 of the first round. If that happens, all that's going to go down is basketball fans around the world are going to try to tune out the regular season and make it as unimportant as possibly could, like as unimportant as it could be. And there are fans who get upset when a player has, like Klay Thompson, which you probably watched, had 60 points after 3 quarters, and everyone's looking at him saying, well, this guy has a chance to top Kobe Bryant's 81-point game. He has a real chance here. But they took him out for the sole purpose of what we're seeing with these injuries, with the Doncic injury, is they're literally only going to prioritize playoff basketball. And that's bad for any sport. When the playoffs are all that matters, you're going to start seeing teams like the Suns, who are maybe two seed next year, 1 seed hardly, and they're going to say, well, we'll just sit out our stars because we'd rather be as healthy as can be. And this is just bad for the game of basketball. Anytime you see injuries, you're going to see GMs and these star players and their agents and even the coaching staff saying, what can we do just to get guys through healthy? And ultimately, it's bad for the overall product of this sport. And obviously, I'm upset as a Suns fan because it's the only way we lose this series. But Doncic, I mean, I didn't see the Mavericks having a real shot anyway in terms of an NBA Finals champ, like really winning the NBA Finals. So I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I wouldn't say I'm too upset about the Doncic injury other than the fact that it's a player getting hurt, and I didn't want to see that. So.
You got to love what you just saw, right? You like your sports without the nonsense, sports without the woke. You can get plenty of that if you head over to our YouTube channel, go to the Breakaway channel, press subscribe, press like on every single one of those videos, smash it, hit it out of the park. Let's go. It's awesome conversations, great content. And also, if you're on Instagram, you can follow us at TPUSA Breakaway. Appreciate y'all. Peace.